Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 Spoilers Update channel. Audra refuses to leave after Kyle's most recent error backfires. According to spoilers on The Young and the Restless, Kyle Abbott acknowledged his mistakes. However, the events that transpired between him and Claire Newman transcend both of them. Because of her soap opera background, Claire was not permitted to form typical social bonds, such as dating. Thus, until Kyle entered her life, she had no boyfriend. The audience remembers that Jordan Howard abducted Harrison Abbott, Redding Munsell, and Claire. That created the link that eventually brought Claire and Kyle together, even though Claire knows she's not ready to love him. Nikki Newman and Victoria Newman were startled. It was about a year ago that Claire planned to harm her grandma and mother. Erin's character was unsure of whom to trust because Jordan had abducted Claire at infancy and reared her in a cult of personality manner. She thought Jordan, her great-aunt, was telling the truth. However, she was never left in the maternity ward by Victoria Newman or Cole Howard. Fortunately for Claire, reality set in at the cabin where Jordan planned to murder her nephew Cole and several members of the Newman family. Since then, Victoria and Nikki have developed a close, protective relationship with Claire. They were shocked to hear that she had lately broken up with Kyle, even though they had encouraged their relationship. Their attitude was influenced by Claire's well-meaning reference to their connections with Cole and Victor Newman. The robed mouse was Kyle Abbott. Despite his apparent belief that he must be flawless, Kyle is not. Kyle took an emotional load due to the disparity between his vast relationship experience, which included marriage and parenthood, and his current situation. The disparity between Claire and Kyle's current life stages was highlighted by recent occurrences, particularly those involving Audra Charles. Kyle's decision to play cat and robed mouse with Audra in Kane Ashby's train car isn't one that he could have done any differently. However, Claire is unable to comprehend or rationally shrug off the intricacy of what Kyle intended with Audra. From a rebound diversion to Claire's next romantic relationship, her flirting with Holden Novak may go either way. However, Claire is currently taking her time and making room to improve her mood, which is entirely understandable. Kyle should be left alone and allow time to pass. His impetuous behavior suggests that it won't occur and that he will question Claire's choice to accompany Holden to California, making another poor choice. Audra Charles must do it again. A few years into her tenure in Genoa City, Wisconsin, Audra discovers that she had quit her previous job, or whatever it was, with Kane. She is also unmarried and not voluntarily. It hurts to lose Nate Hastings. Although she may place the blame on Kyle, Audra understands deep down that he is not to blame for Nate's estrangement. Another amorous outburst between Kyle and Audra wouldn't be shocking. Furthermore, it wouldn't be very pretty to watch this couple develop into a couple by winter. Audra would recognize Kyle as the man she loves if she were honest with herself. He still feels the same way about her. Holden makes his move as Claire's comeback ignites drama. According to spoilers for The Young and the Restless, Claire Newman still has feelings for Kyle Abbott. Holden Novak offers her an easy way out of her desperate attempt to divert her attention from that intense emotion. Claire, who was raised by a legendary criminal, has a more shady past than Holden. The ultimate goal of Jordan Howard's abduction and deliberate brainwashing of Claire was to bring the Newman family to an end. Holden, on the other hand, is thought to have had dubious activities with Audra Charles while they were both residing in Los Angeles, California. The next phase of their slow-building affair is pushed forward when Claire agrees to go to Los Angeles with Holden. Viewers remember that, until Holden recently admitted it, Claire didn't think he was interested in her romantically. The rift was caused by Kyle Abbott's lack of control. Audra was never adored by Kyle. They were involved for a short time when Victor Newman started to put Kyle to the test. For Kyle and Audra, the Glissade adventure yielded nothing of value. Kyle was initially unimpressed by their transactional personal relationship, but Audra fell in love. Later, she felt ignored and mocked, which led her to continue seeking retribution. The mustache has seen serious bad outcomes that have driven Aaron's character to another man, even though Victor did not see Kyle cheating on Claire. Claire will undoubtedly be impacted because Victor doesn't seem to be aware that Holden has been employed by Kane Ashby all along. West, Victoria Newman's daughter. Victoria Newman is mourning the passing of Cole Howard, a loved one. Because Victoria and Claire's grieving process was brief, viewers are presumably being led to believe that a sizable length of time has elapsed since Cole's death. But that's soap in this case. Victoria and Cole never imagined that they would encounter Claire again in person. It was thought that Jordan had deviously planned the death of their daughter, whom they named Eve Nicole Howard. Given Cole's absence and Claire's lack of natural life experiences, it makes likely that Victoria's maternal sense would always be elevated. Thus, it makes sense for her to follow up with Claire in Los Angeles. Additionally, a teased secondary storyline mystery that will be revealed this fall needs to be built up. Holden Novak desires a new beginning. It is possible for two non-parallel points to be true simultaneously. Before moving to Genoa City, Wisconsin, Holden did have a less than respectable life, but he is currently attempting to start over. Holden was immediately attracted to Claire. He has shown concern for her, offered assistance after Cole's death, and has remained morally upright throughout Claire's commitment to Kyle. However, Holden is following Claire's lead, and she is approving of him. Holden will be the man Claire considers as Kyle's replacement while they are in Los Angeles, and possibly after they get back home, because Kyle is back in GC. Audra refuses to leave after Kyle's most recent error backfires. Tangled romances, complex family histories, and the kind of betrayals that echo across Genoa City for months or even years at a period have long been the lifeblood of the young and the restless. This is also true of the most recent plotline with Claire Newman, Audra Charles, and Kyle Abbott. In reality, it might be among the most intricate fusions of personal ambition, emotional sensitivity, and familial loyalty that viewers have seen in recent months. The layers of history, trauma, and unfulfilled longing that continue to shape every action these characters take are what really make this story so compelling, not just the superficial conflict between lovers and competitors. Kyle Abbott, the affluent but uneasy son of the Abbott family dynasty, is at the center of this tale. For the most of his adult life, Kyle has attempted to reconcile his roles as a father, a love partner, and a corporate player, frequently failing in ways that are obviously visible to the public. His most recent error, becoming entangled with Audra Charles, has become a pivotal moment in both his personal story and the lives of the women in his immediate vicinity. Due to Kyle's activities, Claire Newman, whose arrival in Genoa City already bore the burden of tragic manipulation and cult-like indoctrination, is now experiencing emotional turmoil. Audra, on the other hand, who thrives on resiliency and creativity, declines to be so readily discarded. Together with the shadows of Holden Novak, Victoria Newman, Nikki Newman, and Victor Newman, the collision of these three characters highlights the tenacity of ambition and desire in addition to the frailty of relationships. Let's dissect this expansive plot, layer by layer, starting with Kyle's error and working our way out to the repercussions that are changing Genoa City. Kyle Abbott's battle for self-control. Kyle's incapacity to restrain his impulses has always been his biggest flaw. Raised in the Abbott home with high hopes for success, but beset by fears, he frequently takes action before thinking, especially when it comes to affairs of the heart. His past relationships with Tara Locke, Lola Rosales, Summer Newman, and more recently Audra Charles depict a man who aspires to be the hero but frequently becomes the antagonist in his own romantic tales. Kyle genuinely thought he had discovered something clean and redemptive in Claire Newman. Because of Claire's lack of romantic past, their relationship felt brand new. He saw in her an opportunity to protect and guide, a role he relishes in, especially as Harrison's father, while she saw in him a feeling of security and maturity. Kyle, however, was unaware of the wounds Claire bore from her strange and terrible childhood. Her inexperience extended beyond dating. It also included intimacy, trust, and the dread of manipulation. Love is not just dangerous, It is terrifying for someone like Claire, who was denied a typical upbringing and raised to view family as enemies. Therefore, the tenuous trust Claire had been attempting to establish was destroyed when Kyle was pulled back into Audra's web, even for a brief period of time. He was careless in choosing to have that flirting, almost playful relationship with Audra in Kane Ashby's train car. It might have seemed like a harmless pleasure to Kyle, or perhaps a test of his self-control. Claire saw it as emotional betrayal rather than physical treachery, and in her view, it is not acceptable to betray someone. Claire Newman, Identity Reconstruction. One of the young and the restless, most moving storylines is still Claire's journey. In addition to being a Newman, she has fallen prey to Jordan Howard's devious schemes. Victoria Newman and Cole Howard thought their daughter had died at birth for decades. Rather, Jordan abducted her and brought her up in a warped world where being loyal to Jordan meant severing all ties with other people. It's not easy to break free from that kind of tyranny. Claire sees each relationship she creates as an exercise in self-reliance. It was risky to fall for Kyle because it was her first genuine love and her first taste of trust from people other than Victoria and Nikki. It was delicate, though. Kyle's background, expertise, and complex relationships with women like Audra only served to emphasize Claire's continued naivete. It was more than just jealousy or even grief when Claire realized Kyle had made a mistake. It has to do with protecting oneself. She came to the realization that she was not prepared to enter the depths of love with a man who had so many baggage issues. In many respects, Claire's choice to distance herself was her first real act of autonomy. Instead of being controlled, left behind, or ignored, she made the decision to safeguard her own delicate heart. It is necessary to consider her flirting with Holden Novak from the same perspective. It may appear to be a rebound to some. Claire sees it as a means of testing her capacity to live independently of Kyle's feelings. Holden is a symbol of opportunity, liberty, and the ability to change her story. Audra Charles not letting go. Women like Audra Charles don't take loss well. She made a name for herself as a survivor, a strategist, and a woman who refused to accept less than the best as soon as she set foot in Genoa City. Although her relationships with Kyle Abbott, Tucker McCall, and Nate Hastings all ended in heartbreak, they also demonstrated her flexibility. Though it hurts, Cal finds that rejection gives her more energy than most other setbacks. Audra views Kyle as a prize she hasn't fully claimed, unlike Claire, who views him as a man who destroyed her innocence. Despite their odd chemistry, Audra is certain that he would soon recognize that she is the woman who shares his intensity and ambition. Audra's refusal to play the victim is what makes her so intriguing. She doesn't mope despite losing Nate, losing her career, and dealing with Kyle's continued attachment to Claire. She does another calculation. She will position herself to be indispensable if Kyle does not voluntarily return to her. Audra will not go away quietly, whether that means rekindling their romance by getting close to them or siding with influential people like Kane Ashby. An intriguing triangle is created by the stark contrast between Claire's vulnerability and her resistance. Audra moves forward to conquer, while Claire withdraws to recuperate. Both women have different desires for Kyle, and he appears to be torn between being tempted by Audra's fire and admiring Claire's innocence. The catalyst role of Holden Novak. Despite lacking the Newmans or Abbotts' legendary heritage, Holden Novak's presence provides a spark. Once dismissed as platonic, his desire in Claire has recently become more intense. Claire, who is still in shock after Kyle's error, believes that Holden can help her regain her self-assurance. Even though Holden's past in Los Angeles still haunts him, Claire is more than just a conquest to him. She's a chance to start over and create something genuine. Holden's duty is made more difficult by his possible relationship to Kane Ashby. His connection with Claire will be damaged, possibly irreparably, if it turns out that he has been working with Kane all along. However, Holden poses a genuine risk to Kyle until that reality is revealed. Holden is immersing himself in Claire's emotional healing by accompanying her to Los Angeles. Kyle's ability to observe is more important than Claire's willingness to let him in. The dynamics of the Newman family. Despite not being the main participants in the love triangle, Victoria and Nicky Newman are both essential to this plot. It is heartbreaking for Victoria to see her daughter negotiate romance. She concerns for Claire but yet wants to help her. After all, deception and manipulation have characterized Victoria's own romantic past. Her protective tendencies have only increased since Cole Howard passed away. Ever the matriarch, Nicky sees a fragile flower and a second chance in Claire. Although her relationship with her granddaughter is still strengthening, she is cautious about Claire's propensity for overconfidence. When Claire revealed that her relationship with Kyle had ended, both women were taken aback and realized how similar their own lives were to hers. Claire took note of Victoria's remarks regarding the roles that Cole and Victor played in her life. They served as a reminder that love is difficult, messy, and occasionally merciless. Victor Newman's long-term vision. Victor Newman is lurking behind a lot of this turmoil in order to guarantee strength and devotion. The mustache has always been a skilled manipulator who isn't afraid to test, poke, and coerce people around him. Character, not romance, was what drew him to Kyle, especially during the Glissade expedition. Unfortunately, Kyle's current problem is partly the result of the consequences from that attempt. Even though Victor isn't aware of it yet, Holden's relationship with Cain will significantly alter the balance of power. For the time being, he plays the role of an observer, observing as his daughter, granddaughter, and rival son become involved in decisions that could have an impact on Abbott's reputation as well as Newman Enterprises. A winter storm is coming. The storyline's threads appear destined to converge explosively in the future. Audra will continue to obstruct Kyle's efforts to win Claire back since she won't step aside. Claire will either experience new heartbreak or be healed by her journey with Holden. Kyle's impatience will most likely cause him to make another poor choice, possibly a rash reunion with Audra or an unsuccessful attempt to stop Claire from leaving. Victoria will continue to be involved in her daughter's decisions due to her maternal instincts, while Victor's strategic thinking will reveal links between Holden, Cain, and the broader corporate conflicts at hand. A winter full of treachery, surprising alliances, and the kind of heartache that characterizes Genoa City's most memorable tales will be the outcome. Conclusion: the price of love, ambition, and mistakes. Though it started as a moment of weakness, Kyle Abbott's error has grown into something much more serious. In an attempt to defend herself, Claire Newman has allowed Holden Novak to enter. Refusing to be forgotten, Audra Charles keeps attempting to reintegrate into Kyle's life. Additionally, the Newman family, who are consistently at the center of this soap opera, observes as their vulnerable daughter takes chances that could either strengthen or weaken her. Ultimately, this story's appeal lies not just in the love triangle, but also in the way it captures larger issues like innocence versus ambition, control versus chaos, and trust versus betrayal. The dilemma for Kyle is whether he can grow from his errors before it's too late. It concerns Claire's ability to find love without becoming less of herself. For Audra, the question is whether perseverance will be rewarded or have unanticipated consequences. There is no denying that no error in Genoa City is left unpunished, and no romantic tale is resolved without repercussions. One of the best places to find anything related to the young and the restless is this website. For YNR news and spoilers, return often.